They called me a success story, the girl who turned her kitchen table hobby into a six-figure brand. My hands, once covered in silver dust and the joy of creation, were now permanently clenched around a phone, a keyboard, a spreadsheet. I had built a beautiful, gilded cage for myself, and the thing that was slowly, methodically killing my soul was my own dream. I was the proud owner of a thriving business and the loneliest, most exhausted woman I knew. And I remember thinking, is this it? Is this all the passion was for?
That feeling of being trapped by the very thing you built to set you free. It's a story so many of us know in our bones. Today, we're honored to hear from Serena Joshi, an incredible entrepreneur from Texas who faced that exact crisis. I'm Susan Bentley, and this is Unbroken Women, where we explore the journeys of women who found the courage to tear down their cages and build a life of true freedom. Welcome, Serena.
My world smelled like shipping boxes and burnt coffee. My alarm went off at 4:30 a.m., not because I was a morning person, but because that's when the emails from our overseas suppliers started coming in. Before the sun was up, I'd already put out 3 fires, managed 1 payroll issue, and answered a dozen customer complaints. I had a team of 12, a beautiful, airy workshop that was once my loft apartment, and a brand that people loved, Serena Joshi Designs. My name on little velvet pouches shipped all over the world. On the outside, it was perfect. I was the girl boss everyone aspires to be. I was featured in blogs. I spoke on panels about scaling your passion. I had the photos to prove it. Me, smiling, holding a piece of jewelry, looking accomplished. But that smile was a mask. My reality was the harsh blue light of my laptop screen in a dark room, the constant knot of anxiety in my stomach, the feeling that I was a conductor of a train that was going faster and faster, and I had no idea how to stop it. I told myself this was the price of success, that the exhaustion, the missed birthdays, the complete and utter disconnect from my own creativity, it was just the hustle. I was living the life I thought I wanted, the one I had meticulously planned and sacrificed for. I just never planned for how empty it would feel. The weight wasn't just the long hours. It was the crushing burden of expectation. Every decision, from the clasp on a necklace to hiring a new packer, rested on my shoulders. I was responsible for 12 people's livelihoods. I was responsible for the investors who believed in me. I was responsible for the customers who expected perfection. I had become a manager, a CEO, a logistician, a marketer, everything except the one thing I started out as, an artist. The tools I used to love, the pliers, the torch, the polishing wheel, sat in a corner of my office, gathering a fine layer of dust. I'd look at them sometimes and feel a pang of something. Grief, maybe? It was like looking at a photograph of a person I used to know. The joy was gone, replaced by a relentless pressure to grow, to scale, to perform. I wasn't creating art anymore. I was managing inventory. I was feeding a machine that I had built, and it was devouring me, piece by piece. The first whisper was quiet. It came late one night, around 2 a.m. I was staring at a spreadsheet, numbers blurring together, when I saw a picture on my desk. It was me and my best friend Maya from college. We were covered in clay, laughing, in a pottery class we took for fun. We made these lopsided, terrible-looking bowls, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. For a fleeting moment, I let myself imagine it, a different life, one where I just made things for fun. No sales targets, no supply chain logistics, no payroll, just my hands and some clay. The thought was so foreign, so irresponsible that I pushed it away almost immediately. Get a grip, Serena, I told myself. You have responsibilities. But the whisper didn't completely disappear. It would come back at odd times, when I'd see a woman sketching in a park or when I'd pass a small, quiet bookstore. It was a tiny, persistent voice asking a dangerous question. What if there was another way to live? A way that didn't feel like I was holding my breath all the time. The whisper became a scream on a Saturday in October. It was Maya's wedding day. My best friend since we were 5. I was supposed to be her maid of honor. I had the dress, a beautiful, deep emerald green hanging in my closet. I had my speech written, tucked into my purse. I had promised her, sworn to her, that I would be there, completely present for her entire day. But on Friday afternoon, I got a call. Our main silver supplier had a customs issue. An entire shipment, thousands of dollars worth of raw material for our holiday collection, was stuck. If we didn't get it cleared by Monday, we would miss our production deadlines, default on major wholesale orders, and potentially lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a 5-alarm fire. I spent all of Friday night on the phone, calling freight forwarders, customs brokers, anyone who would listen. I barely slept. The morning of the wedding, I was still on the phone, pacing my office floor, my stomach in knots. I kept telling myself, just one more call. I'll solve this, then I can go. But one call turned into another. 10 a.m. became noon. Noon became 2 p.m. The ceremony was at 4. At 3:15, my phone buzzed. It was a picture message from another bridesmaid. It was Maya, in her wedding dress, looking like an absolute queen, and underneath, a simple text. We're about to start. Where are you? My heart just broke. I was standing in my sterile office, surrounded by invoices and shipping manifests, and I was missing it. I was missing one of the most important moments in the life of the person I loved most in the world. For a shipment of silver. In that instant, the illusion shattered. This wasn't success. This was a catastrophic failure. I tried so hard to put it back together. I called Maya, sobbing, apologizing profusely. She was kind, of course, because that's who she is, but there was a quiet hurt in her voice that I knew I had put there. For the next few weeks, I went into overdrive. I told myself it was a one-time thing, a fluke, the price of being a business owner. I worked harder, trying to build systems so that a crisis like that would never happen again. I was running from the truth. The truth was, my life was fundamentally broken. But the fear of facing that was paralyzing. What was the alternative? Just quit? Shut down the business that everyone, including me, had sacrificed so much for? Lay off 12 people who depended on me? Admit to my investors that I couldn't handle the growth they'd paid for? The thought was terrifying. It felt like admitting I was a fraud, a failure. So I doubled down. I put on the brave face, posted pictures of our new collection, talked about our exciting Q4 growth projections. I tried to convince myself that the emptiness I felt was just burnout and that a vacation would fix it. But I couldn't even schedule a vacation. The machine I had built demanded my constant presence. Every attempt to fix the problem from within the cage just made the bars feel thicker and stronger. The breaking point didn't come with a bang. It was a quiet, suffocating implosion. A few weeks after the wedding, I was in the workshop late on a Friday night. The team had gone home. The building was silent except for the low hum of the polishing machines. I was surrounded by success. Racks and racks of finished jewelry. Hundreds of boxes ready to be shipped. We had just landed our biggest wholesale account ever. By every metric, I was winning. I should have been celebrating. Instead, I sank down onto a stool, picked up a beautiful silver pendant, one of my original designs, and I just stared at it. I couldn't feel anything. No pride, no joy, just a profound, bone-deep weariness. I thought about the hands that would wear this piece, the life it would have, and I realized I had no life of my own. My passion had become a monster, and it had eaten everything. My friendships, my health, my peace, my creativity, it was all gone. And in the silence of that workshop, I started to cry. It wasn't loud, dramatic sobbing. It was a silent, helpless, full-body collapse. Tears just streamed down my face as the full weight of my reality crashed down on me. I couldn't do it anymore. Not for one more day. Something had to die. The business or me. In the cold light of the next morning, sitting in that same silent workshop, a decision formed. It wasn't an easy or happy one. It felt like a betrayal, a surrender. But it also felt like the first breath of fresh air I'd had in years. I wasn't going to shut down completely, but I was going to dismantle the monster. I decided to drastically downsize, to sell off the high-volume production machinery, to let go of the large workshop space, to end our relationships with the big wholesale accounts. I would have to let most of my team go. The financial risk was enormous. I would be walking away from guaranteed revenue, from growth, from everything the business world tells you is success. I was choosing to become smaller. It was the most terrifying, rebellious, and necessary decision of my entire life. I knew it would hurt people. I knew I would be judged. But for the first time, I was choosing my own survival over the expectations of others. The first step was the hardest. I called a team meeting. 12 faces, people I had hired, trained, and worked alongside for years, looked at me expecting news about our new big account. My hands were shaking so hard I had to grip the edge of the table. I told them everything. Not the corporate speak version, but the truth. That I was drowning. That the business had grown beyond what I could or wanted to handle, and that I was taking it back to its roots, back to a one-woman operation. The looks on their faces, it was a mixture of shock, confusion, and hurt. I felt a wave of guilt so profound it almost buckled my knees. These were good people. I was turning their lives upside down. I promised them the best severance packages I could manage, glowing references, personal help with their job searches, but none of that could soften the blow. Walking out of that meeting, the workshop felt cavernous and empty. I felt this bizarre mix of gut-wrenching shame and a tiny, terrifying flicker of freedom. I had done the impossible. I had said the unsayable. The machine was finally, officially, grinding to a halt. The fallout was immediate and brutal. My investors were furious. I had a series of incredibly tense conference calls where they accused me of emotional decision-making, of throwing away their money, of being unprofessional. They threatened legal action. They couldn't comprehend why anyone would voluntarily choose to make less money. To them, growth was the only metric that mattered. Then came the customers. When I announced on social media that we would be scaling back, discontinuing most of our popular lines to focus on limited, handmade pieces, the reaction was not great. Some were supportive, but many were angry. Why are you doing this? You're letting us down. You've sold out by getting smaller? The irony was thick. I was being called a failure for choosing my sanity. Friends and family were confused. My parents, who had been so proud of my success, gently suggested I was having a breakdown and should take a vacation before making such a drastic move. Every conversation felt like a battle, forcing me to defend the most vulnerable choice I'd ever made. The world it had built was actively trying to pull me back, telling me that my quiet desire for a peaceful, creative life was a form of madness. It was isolating in a way I had never experienced before. I felt like I was screaming into a void and no one understood. The external resistance was nothing compared to the war inside my own head. Every night I would lie awake, gripped by a cold financial panic. The numbers just didn't add up. How was I going to pay my mortgage? What if I couldn't sell enough of my new, smaller collection? The voice of doubt was relentless. You've made a huge mistake. You are a CEO, and now you're just some lady making trinkets in her spare room. There were days I missed the chaos. I missed the validation of a big order, the feeling of importance that came with managing a team. The familiar pain of my old life seemed almost comforting compared to the terrifying uncertainty of this new one. I felt stripped bare of my identity. If I wasn't Serena Joshi, the successful entrepreneur, then who was I? I was completely and utterly lost, questioning my decision 100 times a day. The moment I almost gave up came about 2 months in. I had one major wholesale account left, a chain of boutique stores that I thought would support my new direction. They were my safety net, the one piece of my old life I thought I could hang on to. I had a call with their head buyer, expecting to discuss my new, smaller collection. Instead, she told me they were pulling their account. "Serena, your new model just doesn't work for our volume," she said, her voice clinical and detached. "It's not scalable." That word, scalable, it was like a dagger. When I hung up the phone, I felt nothing, just a hollow, ringing emptiness. That contract had been my last financial lifeline. Without it, my savings would be gone in 3 months. I sat on the floor of my now empty workshop, the place where it all began and where it all seemed to be ending, and I felt the fight drain out of me. The investors were right. The customers were right. I was a failure. I had thrown everything away for a fantasy, and now I was about to lose it all. I seriously considered calling my lead investor and begging for my old life back. I don't know how long I sat there. An hour? Maybe 2. I was ready to wave the white flag. My eyes drifted over to a box in the corner, filled with materials I hadn't had time to even look at for years. On top was a piece of raw labradorite, a stone I'd bought on a trip long ago. It looked dull and gray. But I picked it up. Its weight felt good in my hand. Solid. Real. Almost without thinking, I took it over to my old, dusty workbench. I lit my torch, the first time in over a year. I picked up my pliers. And I started to work. I wasn't thinking about profit margins or marketing angles. I was just following the lines in the stone. As I shaped the silver wire around it, the stone caught the light, and for a second, it flashed with an incredible electric blue. It was a flicker of hidden magic. And in that moment, something inside me flickered too. It was joy, pure, simple, uncomplicated joy. The feeling I had started this whole business to chase. It was still there, buried but not gone. That flash of blue was enough. It was the spark I needed. The climb back was slow. It wasn't a triumphant montage. It was quiet and deliberate. I started small. I made 10 necklaces, each one unique, each one a piece of my soul. I photographed them myself, not in a sterile studio, but in my garden, with natural light. I wrote a long, honest post about my journey, about the burnout and the downsizing, and I put the pieces up for sale on my website. And then I waited. It was terrifying. But then an order came in, and another, and an email from a woman who said my story made her feel less alone. I started hosting small in-person workshops in my home studio, teaching others the joy of making something with their hands. The income was a fraction of what it used to be, but my life was fuller. I was connecting with people again. I was setting my own hours. I took weekends off. I had dinner with Maya. I was slowly, painstakingly building a life, not just a business. It's been a year now. My business is smaller, quieter, and more profitable in the ways that matter. I make less jewelry, but each piece means more. The work I'm creating now is the most honest, resonant art of my life because it comes from a place of peace, not pressure. I don't check my email at 5 a.m. I don't have spreadsheets open at midnight. I have silver dust under my fingernails again. The knot of anxiety in my stomach is gone, replaced by a quiet confidence. I no longer need the validation of a magazine feature or a huge wholesale order to feel successful. I am not a CEO. I am an artist. I'm a friend. I am a woman who is finally, truly free. If I could speak to that woman, the one crying in her silent workshop, I would tell her this. You are not a failure. You are a warrior. Your exhaustion is a signal, not a weakness. And that whisper you hear, the one telling you there's another way, listen to it. It's the truest voice you have. Your passion is a gift, not a burden. True success is not about scaling up. It's about creating a life, not just a business, that sets your soul free.
Thank you, Serena, for sharing your incredible story of courage and redefinition. What a powerful reminder that our own peace is the ultimate measure of success. What part of Serena's story resonated with you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you were moved by her journey, please like and subscribe to Unbroken Women. We have a whole library of stories just like this one waiting for you. Until next time, be kind to yourselves.